Well, hello. It's good to be able to bring you another devotional video. And again, we're in Genesis, or I'm in Genesis this evening. And jumping right to the beginning, Genesis chapter 1. And what I want to share with you this evening are a couple of things. Firstly, to see how Genesis chapter 1, even though it was written 2,500 years ago, gives us an account of the formation of the earth that's surprisingly similar to the one that's provided by science in the 21st century. And then to look at three things that God did in the creation of the earth that he still wants to do for us today. And rather than read to you the verses, as time is short, what I'm going to do is just paraphrase to you the first few verses in Genesis 1 as they read to me. And so it might be interesting for you to have a Bible, if you've got one to hand, open at Genesis 1 and just follow it through with me and see if what I'm describing accords with what you read there. So first of all, we see that famous opening line, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And at the start, we see an earth that is at first featureless and dark and wet. The surface is entirely ocean. The atmosphere is so thick and heavy with vapour that little or no light reaches the surface. No life is possible. An earth that looks not like the one that we're so used to seeing, but maybe more like that, which is a picture of the planet Venus today, just shrouded in cloud and dark underneath. But then the atmosphere begins to thin sufficiently for some light to penetrate, and light is seen on the surface. Then a distinct cloud layer is formed that separates the cloud in the atmosphere from the water of the ocean beneath. And then something, maybe seismic activity, causes dry land to appear, to begin with a single continent and a single ocean. On a globe, if you've only got one, you can only have one or the other. Plant life begins to appear on the land. Where the plants had appeared already in the ocean is left open. The cloud layer then begins to break so that the stars and planets become visible and distinct and can be seen from the surface. And then animal life appears, first in the ocean and then on land. And then finally, mankind appears. That's a very brief and succinct outline, but it's in broad agreement with a modern scientific account of the origin of the earth. So, some questions. If Genesis chapter 1 came by revelation from the Creator, shouldn't we expect it to be 100% in agreement with 21st century science? As it is, there are some points of difference. Well, first of all, bear in mind this book is 2,500 years old. It wasn't just written for us. It was written for all people throughout time. It was written for the people in the time in which it was written. Now, let me give you an example. It's all very well taking out a mortgage and dreaming of owning a house in 25 to 30 years, but you've got to keep up the payments month by month. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. And in the same way, for the Bible to be accessible and meaningful to us today, it first had to be accessible and meaningful to the people it was first written for and everybody in between. We have the knowledge, looking back, to read it in the light of the past. The people in the past didn't have the capacity to read it in the light of the future. So we should expect it to be weighted towards that age and that period. Secondly, science changes its opinion and has done many times over the years. There's no particular reason to think that the snapshot that science gives us in the 21st century is the be-all and end-all of scientific knowledge and everything that science is going to have to say about the origin of the earth and life and humanity. That's highly unlikely. It will change. So we shouldn't expect what's written in the Bible to be a precise snapshot of what our science is telling us today, any more than the people of 100 years ago or 500 years ago had any right to expect that. Thirdly, it's very clear from the structure and the rhythm of the language that the Bible, and including Genesis, is not written as a scientific textbook. It was most likely written as a response to the kind of polytheistic creation myths that were in circulation at the time, and as a response to those, it works extremely well. It's not intended to be a book of science. Nevertheless, what we see is that there are more points of agreement than disagreement, certainly in this Genesis chapter 1 account. And that's really quite unexpected, and from my point of view, actually quite impressive. So then let's look at 3 things that God did in the creation of the earth that he still does and wants to do for us today. Firstly, he gave form to what was formless. It says that the earth was formless, it was shapeless, it was featureless. Then he filled what was empty. It was formless and empty. And darkness was over the surface of the deep. But God gave light in the darkness, form to what was formless, filled what was empty, and gave light in the darkness. Sometimes in our lives, things happen that throw everything out of shape. They just throw things out of kilter. It might be something we planned, a change of job, a house move, the birth of a child, something that didn't maybe turn out exactly as we were expecting it, which is kind of par for the course for those things, isn't it? Or it may be something that we hadn't planned and didn't want, a serious accident or illness, bereavement, a redundancy, a bankruptcy, all kinds of things that can come out of left field and just throw our lives out of kilter. When things are out of shape, God is there to put them into shape. I think sometimes God is more present the less we are in control. God is more present the less we are in control. You might have run out of ideas at this time. He has them aplenty. You may have run out of hope. He has loads of hope and the means to fulfill it. When things are thrown up in the air, when things are out of shape, it's an opportunity for God to step in and reshape things his way, to make us more like him, to prepare us for the road ahead, wherever that might be taking us. It is an opportunity. A generation ago, hundreds of people began meeting informally in homes, leaving traditional churches and finding new ways of doing church together, of living out the life of Christ in them and among them. And God shaped that into a movement that not only created a huge network of new churches, and Open Door Church Sunbury is one that has come from those roots, but also transformed the life of the church across the UK. And even the traditional churches are not what they were a generation ago. They have been changed as a result of that movement that took place some 50 years ago. And what he did on a cosmic scale in the creation of the earth, what he did in a national scale among the churches, he can do on a personal level for you and for me. The only thing is that we have to be malleable and we have to be soft and ready for what he wants. Smith Wigglesworth, the Pentecostal preacher, said, "Only melted gold is minted. Only moistened clay is moulded. Only softened wax receives the seal. Only broken, contrite hearts receive the mark as the potter turns us on his wheel." We need to be soft and ready for the work of God in our lives. Secondly, he filled what was empty. Mary's song that she recorded singing when she was pregnant with Jesus, when she met Elizabeth, who was with child with John the Baptist, said, "He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty." That's Luke chapter 1, verse 53. He's a God who fills us. Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." God's plan for you is a full life, the full repertoire of what life has to offer you. And that includes the full repertoire of emotions, the lows as well as the highs, the pain and the disappointment. All of those are part of God's plan. I don't think you can fully enjoy and appreciate success unless you've experienced failure. I don't think you can fully understand the value of gain unless you've experienced loss. And I don't think you'll ever make the most of what you have if it comes easy and you simply take it for granted. And therefore God offers us a full life, but that full life includes the lows as well as the highs. Can we embrace them? And can we embrace all that they give us and all that comes from them. 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. Are we willing to be empty vessels? Are we willing to be the empty so that God can fill us at this time? And then lastly, he gave light in the darkness. And whether it's darkness in the sense of some evil that has come upon you, whether it's in the sense of being overwhelmed and in despair and feeling hopeless, or whether it's just a sense of being blind and being unable to see and find your way, God is able to shine a light. Psalm 119 says, your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. A few years ago, I was doing something that I really thought and believed was going to be my life's work, something I had a sense of the call of God on, and had done for a number of years, and I'd done it for a few years. And then the door closed and I was released, and there was no real opportunity to continue doing the same kind of thing. And I was kind of cast adrift. Before then, I'd always known where I was heading. That had changed once or twice, but I'd always had a sense of direction. I knew the direction of my life. Afterwards, I didn't, and in many ways, to some extent, I still don't. And it was like walking through a dark forest and not quite knowing where you were going. But at 3 or 4 crisis points along the way where things could have gone wrong and I could have really lost my way, each time God stepped in and opened up a door, opened up a path in a quite unexpected way. And so it's been not so much a life of pursuing a goal and an objective, but of enjoying and seeking to enjoy the path along which God has led me. He gives us light, even in the darkness, and he gives us a way forward. There is a way, as the song said, where there seems to be no way. There is a light in the darkness. There is a hope, an everlasting hope. There is a God who can help us. He gave form to what was formless. He filled what was empty. He gave light in the darkness, and he's still able to do those things for us today. So, Father in heaven, thank you for the lessons that we can learn from the earth that you created, this wonderful, beautiful, life-filled home that you gave us. Lord, we pray that what is formless in our lives, you will put your form upon. Lord, that what is empty, that you will fill with your grace and the good things that only you can give. And that where there is darkness, you will shine your light and lead us in the path ahead. Amen.